God, I feel like I've made a grave mistake. As the resident chef here, I did not bring movie snacks. Perhaps that's why there's been an exodus. Again, my name is Brooke Siem. I am the author of May Cause Side Effects, and I am your lived experience person. So this slide here, it's my only slide. That's me on the left. About 15, a few months before my father suddenly passed away, and I was put on a whole bunch of psychiatric drugs after that happened. In the middle is me in the middle of antidepressant withdrawal. I'd say that's about 6 months in. I was having so much trouble regulating my nervous system and my heat system at the time that I owned a bakery, and the only way I could cool down was to literally sit in the freezer. And that photo was taken. There's about 15 years difference in between those two photos. I was medicated for 15 years, from 15 to 30, and it was when I turned 30, I was having suicidal ideation. And it occurred to me that if I was this depressed on antidepressants, then they weren't doing their job. And I thought I need to try and get off of them and just see what happens. And that led to the last edge of the slide, which is my book, May Cause Side Effects, which is about the year I spent in severe antidepressant withdrawal. So for my short talk, we've spent a lot of time tonight talking about people on drugs and how far off track we've gotten. And from my perspective, if we're gonna talk about pulling, hopefully, masses of people off of these drugs, we need to also talk about withdrawal, understand what withdrawal can look like for people, so there's not misdiagnosis, additional diagnosis, so we don't have situations like Richard. And so I'm going to read an excerpt from my book that showed one aspect of how withdrawal was for me. And I know that there are a lot of doctors and future doctors and prescribers in this room, so I would like to ask you to think about how you would respond to a patient if you heard what I'm about to read to you. It's been 6 days since I stopped taking Effexor XR, and there was bloodshed in the street. I am on 38th Street, and it is daylight, and there is blood, so much blood, running down the sidewalks in ruby tendrils twinkling in the sun's light. The blood belongs to a man I don't know, a man who just a few minutes before was on his way to his job, his lunch, his family, but who now lies crumpled before my feet thanks to the knife in my hand that slit him from ear to ear. A pool of blood wells up around my shoes and seeps in between my toes, sticky, warm life escaping from its host. People pass all around us, white wires dangling from their ears, shoulders hunched, head down to the ground and eyes on their screen. They don't notice me and they don't notice the man, and they instinctively go left or right to avoid us in a rehearsed, unspoken dance only New Yorkers know. I step over the man and leave him to bleed. There is a baby in a stroller. I rip it out of its harness and swing it by the ankles into a parked car. Its mother just nods at me and pushes the empty stroller along the cracked sidewalk until the wheels hit an old lady's pool of blood and send a stream of red across a mother's face. She turns back to me and smiles. I pass a small dog tied to a bike rack. The dog looks at me with its black and white face cocked sideways, ears perked. I knock it over with my foot and use my bare, bloodied heel to suffocate the creature until it is nothing but a pile of lifeless fur. When I am done with the dog, I take the knife to my own throat and twist it. I twist it in deep, but I am not dead. I go beat my head into a fence, and I am not dead. I run into traffic, and finally I am dead, but the man and the baby and the dog are all still with me, and we are together, but no one notices we are dead because it's all in my head, and I can't stop the images from flashing, flashing, flashing. I didn't tell my psychiatrist what was happening to me. I was too scared because I was worried that if she knew what I was seeing, the images, they weren't really hallucinations, they were more like a veil had sort of come over the world, and this is what I was seeing. But I was so scared that if I told her what was happening, she would put me on an involuntary psychiatric hold, and that I would end up hospitalized against my will and likely walk out of the hospital with an additional diagnosis of schizophrenia or bipolar or some sort of psychosis. All of that would have led to more serious pharmaceutical intervention, and I might have lost my house or my job. I know I would have lost the rights to my own body. But in reality, the only thing that was happening here is that I was pulled off Effexor XR, one of the most common antidepressants on the market, too quickly. I was on 37.5 milligrams of that drug, which is the lowest dose on the market. And my doctor at the time did not have the education to know that even at what's called a therapeutic dose can still cause such horrific withdrawal symptoms. And so someone asked me while we were out in the lobby why I do this, why I take 3 days off my job cooking for people to come here and talk to people like you. And I actually stumbled over my words a little bit because no one's ever asked me that before. And so I thought about it. And the reason why I'm here, though, is because at the end of the day, this has been, quite frankly, a very depressing 2 hours. And there's no hope for recovery in this conversation at all, and I think that's very true on both a collective and an individual level. But the mark of successful treatment in medicine is the cessation of a condition. We all in this room know, I think, probably that what we're doing and everything we've heard from Robert and Sammy and Gretchen tonight, we know that what we're doing isn't working. And so I'm here to try and inject a little hope by saying that, look, I've been through this. I've been literally on the ledge thinking of taking my own life, and I've also been through the worst of withdrawal, which is the worst thing I've ever experienced, and I'm here to say that I'm fully recovered, and I am so happy, and I love my life. But that when I was going through all this, especially withdrawal, I didn't know that it was possible to get out of it. I was just pissed off and stubborn, and that's all that got me through. But I think there's a lot of people out there who need to know that there are people like me who can get through it, and they need their doctors and their family members to believe in them and to see them as a whole person who is capable of healing. And so, this was the greatest teacher. Withdrawal was the greatest teacher that I have ever had, because it led to a life I love and work I love. I wish that for everyone, and I think that every child and patient going through mental health, whether or not we think it's, fake, real, or whatever it is, they believe it, it's their truth. They also deserve to have a shot at living a life they love. So that's why I'm here, because we have to know that it's possible first. So thank you all for coming and being open-minded.